creative. But I'm not trying to kill the radios. All right, all right. Let me start the timer so I can keep track and not be an idiot and be like, "Hey, how much time do we have left?" All right, so here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna do the intro. Let me look that way, this way, that way, this way. All right. Welcome to the Houston Collective on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston, where we bring the best local talent on the air and talk about exactly what they do. Normally, this second part would probably be more music, but it's still kind of music because our guest today is.
Hi, my name's Angel Guerra. I'm an audio engineer over at SugarHill Recording Studios. It's actually the oldest studio
In the
in the world beside that road, continually operating.
Where's Abbey Road?
Abbey Road is in England. That's where
Oh, that's not.
That's where Pink Floyd recorded.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought that was like an actual road that where they is that the same road where they took that picture?
I don't know where that picture was actually taken, but I do know that that is where they recorded. But also Abbey Road is the oldest technically, but we're second. So, hey,
But how far? Or how long?
I think possibly by a couple years. We'd have to look it up. Don't quote me on that. But Sugar Hill was started up in 1941, so Abbey Road was a little bit before that.
That's crazy. I had no idea. I know that it's the longest running recording studio in Houston, but man, throwing that in the world is pretty awesome.
Yep.
So, so tell us. I know you said you're the audio engineer there. Like, what kind of stuff or what kind of bands do you mess with out there?
Well, I like to record and work with anyone that's using real instruments. You know what I mean? That's kind of typically the stuff that I like to record with, and I'm one of the only couple of engineers at the studio that actually does that. There are there are a couple of there are a few other engineers and producers there, but everyone's into pop music. It's all about making beats now. There are a few who use real instruments and stuff like that, but as far as the content that we put out for music wise, I mean, because it's H Town, dude. We're all hip hop and stuff like that down here, and but basically that's anything that's real instruments what I like to work with. But my favorite genres are like hard rock and like metal. I like distorted electric guitars, loud drums, stuff like that.
Mm.
That's kind of just my forte. That's what I grew up listening to. I'm a metalhead at heart, so
I think that's weird that you say that because I would assume at a recording studio, people are recording instruments.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of just the way that it's where the music industry is right now. You know what I mean? I feel like real instrumentation and stuff like that is kind of making a comeback versus where it was like 10 years ago. Whenever I was first kind of, dipping my toes into the audio engineering realm, because everybody's like, "Hey man, I'm making beats. I'm selling beats. I got anything to make beats with, stuff like that." It's what it's all about, and it's so easy, it's so accessible. That's just and when something is really easy and really accessible like that, more people are just gonna do it. You know what I mean? It takes somebody a substantially less amount of time, I feel, to learn how to make a beat on like their little controller or something like that that already has the key of you know the song laid out on each of its pads so you can't hit a wrong note, rather than taking the time learning to hold a guitar or a bass or a keyboard and learning how to do that. It takes a lot less time to learn how to do that.
That's how I feel about people recording on their.
Yeah, I mean
I can't hate on it anymore because I
Yeah.
started to do that, but it doesn't feel right to me.
I mean, it's both a beautiful thing and it's kind of a weird thing in and of itself. Just because, like, for one thing, it makes making music accessible for more people. You know what I mean? And it's the bar to entry is a lot lower, and that can be cool. But that's another thing. It just makes the people who are putting more time and effort into learning an instrument or learning how to develop a skill like their voice or something like that. It's auto tune. It takes away from those people, just kind of pushing them to the bottom, or I don't want to say pushing them to the bottom. It just makes there's a lot more bull that you gotta sift through
Mhm.
to get to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's become more rare.
yeah, no, no, I feel the same way about like video stuff. But I feel like it has its place. But anyway, let's go back to music. So, have you ever recorded anyone that makes beats with instruments?
Yes, I have. There was a rapper I worked with. His name is Great Randino. He's a local Houston rapper. He hadn't been doing much lately, but he came in with a beat that he had, and he said, "Hey, I want to make something like this, but I want to use real instruments." And so I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, let's pay for some time. I'll work with you on it." And basically, he gave me this beat that he wanted to use. And basically, what I had to end up doing was recording the instruments myself, everything except for the drums. The drums, he still wanted to be like, typical 808, old school
Of course,
rap hip
yeah.
hop stuff, but he wanted real guitar, he wanted real bass, and he wanted like, real kind of keys with it. I still use digital keys just for, convenience factor, but not only that, he wanted me to use all of that cool hardware and equipment that we have to mix it. And that was a rapper that I actually did work with to make his song sound the way that it does.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, but it's very rare that that happens.
Okay, so it's still a rare thing.
It still is a very rare thing, and usually now because I've paid my dues at the studio, I did my whole internship, and even before that, I was mixing and doing stuff for artists here and there, offering my services to them. I've done probably more than my share of, hip hop and rap and like, kind of production beat stuff. And it's kind of just not my thing. There are like even at the studio now, there are a lot more people who are able to get the sound uh better than I can because, at the end of the day it comes down to how well the assignment. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
If you don't really know the assignment very well and know what the artist is asking you for, it's probably not going to sound that great, But if it's like hip hop is just like in your blood and it's like from the ground up, like that's not me personally. Like I'm more of a rock and roller dude, you
Right.
know what I mean? It's not going to translate a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
the time.
No, that's just like when people ask me to film social media stuff. Like I'm more of a regular camera guy rather than shooting stuff for social media. So I love like talking to audio people and being able to hear your story and then being able to relate it to like video. So like all the audio guys I talk to, we always talk about mixing and mastering and how that's so close to color grading and color correction and stuff like that because it's like the fine tuning and that's where your style kind of comes in, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's get into. So I filmed you and a band, and I don't want to butcher it. Can you please say
They are
it?
called Necrogilistic Anomaly.
Very
Lo-
not necrologic. That sounds dumb, but yeah,
Ne- Necrogilistic Anomaly. They're a local death metal band. Probably, in my opinion, the best death metal band in the underground local scene right now.
Right.
Just went to their show they had a week and a half ago at the White Swan, and dude, it was like packed, bro. Like
Really?
you could see like the steam rising up because everybody's sweating and stuff like that. Like it was just so full in there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're working on an EP whenever you came in, and we were all just shooting and stuff. We recorded those 5 songs.
But I think I was there
And
for just one, though, right?
no, we were doing all of them at the same time. So they were all different stuff. Just going and going and going. But yeah, you left probably like halfway through.
Yeah.
I think like that, something like that.
But
But yeah, we basically tracked the entire EP that day, and that's kind of what my recording process is because I have the available space at SugarHill, especially for a band like that, because there are certain times where you want there's the difference between the super high production polished sound. Like you could probably like relate to this as far as video goes, like the super high production like polished sound versus like the really kind of raw gritty handheld camera type of
Yeah, yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
ground zero type of filming style. It's kind of just for that type of band, it's a lot more appropriate to make it have a raw live sound the way that we did it. You know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
is why I love doing stuff that way because it's raw. You
Right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right. Yeah.
It should sound raw. It should sound gnarly.
So, yeah, let's go through like the mics. I mean, I'm probably gonna ask a lot of dumb questions because I don't know the difference between these mics that you use. Because you talk to me through like the specific mics that you use and specific sounds that you get. So why use some of these mics versus or ooh, I almost cussed. So, like, what makes a mic sound more raw versus a particular mic that makes it sound more polished, I guess?
Well, I mean, every single microphone has its own like texture. Like these Sures here, these are dynamic microphones. A lot of the time, dynamic microphones can take a lot heavier SPL level, sound pressure level.
Okay.
You know what I mean? SPL, which means that they can, let's just say you got, Jimi Hendrix, who's got their Marshall cranked up to 10 or whatever. He's like, nope, ain't turning it down. That's my sound. You know what I mean? I'm not going to want to put my, vintage Neumann U67 condenser microphone in front of it so he can just blow the diaphragm out because the sheer sound pressure coming out of the speakers is crazy. So something like this, a dynamic microphone would be a lot more appropriate. But apart from that, it's all about the textures. Every single one of those microphones that I was showing you and I was telling you about has a certain texture to it. And it's learning to become familiar with those pieces and how they react with the hardware, like that big recording console.
Yeah.
It's called a Neve Genesis Black console. Each one of those preamps is a 1073. That's the name of the model preamp, which is like worldwide known for its warmth and its own texture. So it's the relationship between asking the guitar player or the drummer, hearing their instrument, and being like, that particular sound would sound cool if I used this mic or this mic and had the settings on the console set this way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, like for instance, I'll tell you about the mics that I used on the guitar player. Technically, I used 4 microphones on the guitar player, but we'll talk about one particular set. So one of the amplifiers that the Necro guys used was what's called an Angle Fireball 100, and it's a
So cool.
that was the name of the guitar amp. But super high gain, super clean. It's got a noise gate on it, which means when the guitar player's not playing, the sound cuts down. I mean, you were just talking about the gate on there, so it cuts the signal. So it's very, very clean, it's very precise, and it's very relatively low noise. So what I used on that particular amplifier, I used a condenser microphone and I used a dynamic microphone. One of them being a Shure 441, which is the dynamic microphone. I don't know if you remember, it was like that long,
the long one. Yeah.
that long rectangular microphone.
Is that one of the older ones?
No, that one wasn't actually vintage. It's mid 2000s.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily old, but it is one of the best dynamics in the world, in my opinion.
Oh, wow.
It is probably one of the best dynamic microphones.
Now, is that because you say it's one of the best for that genre, or is this like a multi-genre best microphone kind of deal?
It kind of does. It's pretty good at almost anything.
Okay.
The Shure 441 has a very warm texture to it, and it can take a lot of sound pressure. It can take a lot of movement. As a matter of fact, if you're ever going to use it for vocals, which is a great vocal microphone, it is great for vocalists who are loud, who are very, very loud, because even whenever you start pushing it a little bit, it never gets crispy and never kind of, it has a very good way of just keeping that.
So when you say crispy, does that mean like when it clips, or is that a completely different thing?
Kinda, yeah. When it
Okay.
clips, when it clips out, it still kind of has this rolled off, high end rolled off texture to it,
Hey, I know that term.
which can work in your favor for a distorted electric guitar that's turned up to infinity or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but the other mic that I ended up using on this was a vintage 1970s AKG 414, which is a lot of audio engineer guys love the 414 because it is kind of another jack of all trades mic. It's got several different polarity patterns that you can use and different things like
Is that like the cardioid and
yeah,
okay.
that's like
Oh, okay,
that's a
okay,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, you want a job? No, just kidding.
But I want to sit there and watch and hear, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be ready for that. I'd mess up so much stuff. But
Yeah.
please continue.
But yeah, I mean, and the reason I chose that is because the 414, like the Sennheiser, is is kind of a thicker texture to it. Now, the Angle Fireball, this guitar player's particular settings on that amplifier, like I said, were really high gain. The mids are scooped. I know all of the guitar players in the audience are like, what does this sound like? It was very scooped mids. A lot of high end, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to not compromise the artist's sound by taking away too much from it, but I picked a set of microphones for that particular sound that I feel would make up for what the sound is lacking already. So like if he's got a lot of highs, if he's got a lot of lows, but no mids, let me make my selection on the microphones to use based on accentuating the mid section that's not there. So that way you're kind of getting a balance between the artist sound and what you need as an engineer to get it to fit, and get it to work right.
So
What I mean?
if the amp, so you're saying the amp doesn't have a lot of mids?
His settings,
okay.
the way that the guitar player set the amplifier.
Okay. So
Didn't
then
have a lot of mids in it, which is common for death metal. A lot of death metal, thrash metal dudes don't scoop the mids, bro.
right.
It's
so
just,
so then why would you add or accentuate the mids for that if they don't use, you know what I mean? Like what's the point of adding that if they don't
so in the
really keep that in mind or whatever?
so in the context of a guitar player's settings, how do I say this? If it doesn't fit the entire context of the mix with the drums, with the vocalist, with everything. You see, if your guitar is just sounding like this the entire time, and I didn't, there's nothing I can do about it. You know what I mean? It's basically making sure that the frequencies are balanced across the like spectrum, and that way they're there if I need them, and I can take them away if I don't. So basically, if there's no mids in a particular sound, I want to add some so that way I can take away and kind of mold it a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see,
Because you can always add stuff and take it away later, but you can never take away something that's not there already. Like
right.
Basically, it's the audio equivalent of having too much of something is a good thing versus not having enough at all.
Right. Okay.
It's
okay.
kind of, but in terms of frequencies and balancing out the sound and everything.
So you just record it, so if you need it you can add. Okay, I
Add or take away later.
oh, that's pretty cool because it's like a shooting in log or whatever where all the information is there if I need to pull this specific thing or specific color or shadow out or take or put it away or okay
or accentuate it or do whatever. Like, or you may not even do anything at all to it. Like it may, the guitar player may hear it and be like, "Hey, that sounds easy. Hey, I love it."
So it's like having the option.
Exactly. Making the option available for yourself. You know what I mean? From the production side of it, because the thing that you don't want that I try to do is let the artist kind of do their thing. I don't want them in the moment of tracking to really be concerned with what it's sounding like right now. I want them to create in that moment. When we get to the mixing phase, then we can start talking about all of that, and we can start fine tuning their guitar sound. And that's when I start taking away stuff or adding stuff, doing things like that. But during tracking, basically, it's a big balancing act of listening and responding to what I'm listening to. But it's happening like this,
Right.
which is why I love tracking so much, because like my day of the tracking day starts easily like an hour and a half before the band even gets there.
Which
Like,
I was there. Yeah.
And you saw me setting up the mics, moving all of this stuff, and doing all of that, and it's it's a process.
Yeah. So do you talk to the band like a pre-production meeting about what mics to use, or is that up to you and you just sit in on what they sound like, get an idea of what their sound is, and then adapt from there? Or are you like, hey, I'm going to use this mic because A, B, and C, or that's not something?
I typically don't go into that much detail, just because a lot of the bands don't know one mic from another.
Okay.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes there's that one audio nerd guy in the band who's like, what are you using and what are you doing this? Or like, they're just curious, like maybe because like I said, it's a lot more accessible than it was whenever I first started, doing audio stuff 10 years ago. But basically, I do like to have a pre-production meeting of sorts. Although I don't really ask them questions, a lot of the times I'll either go to one of their shows, or I'll go to their band rehearsal space. Like, I'll actually actively talk and text the band and be like, hey, do y'all want to hang out? When do y'all rehearse? Do y'all have a show coming up? And then that way, they can send me all day, little demos they've done on their phone or anything or something like that. But that doesn't always give you the right feel, because a lot of the times the bands I work with are so loud that they listen to the phone recording and it's just,
yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, so I'm not getting much from that. But you go to their rehearsal space, or you go to one of their shows, and then you're like, oh, okay. Like, a lot of the times I'm paying attention to the drummer, because me myself being a guitar player, I could mix guitar like that. Electric guitar, clean guitar, like it's absolutely, child's play to me. But the drummer is the biggest thing that I'm always paying attention to, because that's the instrument that has the most like sonic information going on. Because you got cymbals, you got a kick drum, you got toms, and they're all separate little things.
And their snare probably is completely different all the time. Yeah, from piccolos to whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a whole different aspect of listening whenever you're there in the moment, because it's not like when I'm tracking. When I'm tracking, I'm listening to the monitors and making sure that it reflects what I remember hearing at the, you know what I mean? Getting that feeling whenever I listen to them live, getting that translated to the monitors. You know what I mean? Because you can't just pick any microphone and use it to capture a guitar player's tone or a bass player's tone, or the drummer, to get it to sound exactly like what you remember it sounding like. That's when I already start getting those informed decisions from that pre-production phase. So yes, I do that.
but you're not you're there, so your pre-production is mainly for you to take notes and not talk to the band about like, this is the sound that you're gonna get.
Exactly. And I literally do have like a little notepad, like one of those little like notepad things, like, drummer hits the ride a lot, or they favor this cymbal a lot. Guitar player's tone is really, really thick sounding, bass player likes to cut, it's a lot of aggression or something like that. Just little notes like that, and a lot of the times they're I don't think like philosophical is the right word, but it's more like you're saying, using different forms of onomatopoeia, and it's just like bass go boom, it's just like, different things like that. And I know what it means.
No, yeah. You don't want to see my notes. It would make no sense to anybody. Exactly. But I know what I wrote. Yeah.
And I know how to get the info from that.
No, and I thought you did an interesting thing with the snare, because you had two mics underneath.
No, it was two mics on top
of the
snare.
That's what it was.
So
and then you taped them together, which I was like, what
I
is
did.
this wizardry you're doing?
So the main reason for that is because in this whenever I was doing the necro guys, death metal guys, black metal dudes, extreme metal dudes have a technique that is called gravity blasting, which is where they basically lay their drumstick on the rim and then roll it around. And I'm not a drummer, okay? I'm sorry to all the drummers out there, but I know what happens in concept, but I don't know how they do it. But they like roll it around so that it doubles the amount of hits that's happening. Like it basically turns your 16th notes into like 30-second notes, and some drummers can make it go even faster than that.
64.
So like basically it goes from going to going like it goes like that. So the reason why I tape those mics together is because I am trying to get more sources of that sound to make it louder. So there's two ways you can usually get one particular sound from a given source to be louder. You can either add gain, which will add noise to everything, or you can get a second source, aka a second microphone, on the same instrument, on the same source, pointed at the same thing, and that will actively double what you're hearing, so it'll make it appear louder. So basically I'm able to make a one sound, give it the illusion of being louder by the use of two sources.
Instead of turning the volume up.
Because the thing is, when you're doing live drums like that, if I turn the volume up, you're not only going to hear the snare get louder, you're going to hear the cymbals, you're going to hear the toms, you're going to hear all of that stuff. But
that bleed? That's called
bleed. Yeah, all of that's going to bleed into those mics. But if I'm able to record the same source but have the gain of those two mic preamps relatively low, I'm not picking up as much noise, but the sound it's given the illusion of being louder. So that's kind of a cool thing, a technique that my one of the co-owners of SugarHill, his name's Stephen Finley, he's the guy that really kind of vouched for me and taught me a lot of what I know, honestly. If not a good 75% of what I know comes from that guy.
Oh, sweet. Amazing.
But
should get him in here.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd totally be I don't know if he'd be cool with it, but yeah, he's a great guy. He's very introverted.
I was about to say, is he a recluse?
Yeah, very, very cool dude once you get him to open up and stuff like that. But he's a wizard. He is the archmagus of SugarHill. He's the one that showed me that technique, and I was like, wow, like I didn't even think about doing that. It's so because after I heard the results of that, I was like, nothing's clipping, but the snare is just right there, like right in your face and stuff like that. But it was mainly for those gravity blast stuff, because those gravity blasts are a lot quieter than like a typical snare hit. You know what I mean?
Really?
You drummers out there will know, yeah. Because a good whack on the snare, even just like regular blast beats, like they're still able to kind of hit it, but it's just physics, man. The faster you go, you can't hit that drum as hard as you've been hitting it, especially if you're going super, super quick. So I needed a way to get those levels to be higher without giving more noise.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of why I liked doing that. And we can get into why editing those is a pain in the butt later, but
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean it's but that's another thing too. They're being recorded actively at the same time, so they shouldn't have to be edited, and I don't have to create another source. This is typically whenever most engineers or people who do metal music would add a sample to make each hit really clean. I try to be a particularly anti-sample kind of engineer. I know there's a lot of people who do. That's the whole thing about making it sound raw versus making it sound super high polished stuff like
So it's adding digital stuff to it.
yeah, and like well, just sample packs and stuff like that, having one particular snare sample just there to make sure everything's even. I don't like doing that just because I love the way raw drummers sound, and I don't think that if you're a good drummer, you should hide behind that stuff.
Right. It kind of sounds like cheating.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
not-
it's
not-
yeah,
But
it's
not cheating.
what we call
but-
it. We're helping.
Okay. Adding a little
Yeah.
spice to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I typically don't do that because I hear it a lot. So many, especially in the metal genre, everyone uses the same snare sample or tunes it the same way, and it's like, hey, my stupid, audio engineer ear is just like, that's the same snare sample I heard in this guy's song, or like they're using the same like sample that they used in this other person's song that they mixed, and it's just that's just where my brain goes.
No,
But you can't. But you can't replicate what was done right there because it's unique in and of itself.
Dude, that's pretty cool. So like when you go to shows, this is one thing that I always try to figure out. Do you wear ear protection?
Yeah, I do.
So then how are you here? So when you go to the rehearsal, you're wearing like earplugs, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
So then is it special earplugs so that you can hear what you need to hear? Or do you, because you've been doing this for so long, you already know what to hear for through the ear?
That's what I was going to say. They're only special in the way that I know what they sound like, what the plugs sound like, you know what I mean? Because those big, thick, foamy earplugs have a different response than the ones I use. I use these ones that are called Heroes, which are they're just kind of tiny. They're like tiny plastic, half cup things, but they're super tiny, and they're just go and sit like really lightly in your ear hole, and they don't block out. They block out a lot of the sub frequency. Is what's happening.
What's
like
that?
The bass stuff, a lot of like those spongy, big, thick earplugs. A lot of the times those accentuate the bass because it's they cut out a lot of the high frequencies and a lot of the mids and stuff like that. And so when you're listening to music, it just kind of sounds like
it sounds muffled.
Those Heroes do the opposite. They kind of that's the reason I like them, is because I feel that I'm getting a more true rendition of what I'm hearing, you know what I mean, rather than the big spongy ones. But then again, some people have used those big spongy ones for years and know what they sound like.
Oh, so this is just experience at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's really what a lot of this is just how familiar you are with your equipment, which, can kind of segue into why so many people nowadays can make a #1 hit in their bedroom because, this kid's just been in their bedroom 24/7. I was a teenager once, they're just in their bedroom 24/7, just messing with the stuff, watching YouTube videos and learning how to get a mix just perfect. And, you can get it to sound really good as far as given what you're doing in that moment, or what genre you're for. Like one of my favorite artists in the entire world, like my favorite musician right now, his name is David Maxim Makic. He's a Serbian composer. But he makes progressive metal, true progressive rock metal stuff, because a lot of people consider prog like periphery and different things like that, but that's leaning more into the whole gent stuff, like go.
Okay, yeah.
Well, David Maxim kind of makes more of like the album that he writes. It's true prog. It's like a whole concept album that he does, but it's a long form type of music making. Anyways, he does it all at home.
By himself? He doesn't have a band?
He does have a band that whenever he's done composing it, he will hire them and go. But the drummer will be somewhere else in the world, and he'll email them like, I made these drums. Can you please play this? The drummer has his own like drum studio that he'll play to his stuff. Send him the tracks. He'll mix it, and it's just he's a genius. That guy is amazing.
That's pretty cool that you can make full albums without being in the same room with your bandmates or whatever, right?
You can do that. Like whenever I first started, it's really crazy, the amount of accessibility that people have nowadays. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Power of the internet. I freaking love that. Like, I hate it and love it at the same time because I can talk mess about people shooting on their iPhones all the time. But man, I only talk mess because it's stuff I always wanted in a camera.
Yeah.
I couldn't get. And I
Yeah.
have to buy these crazy expensive cameras to get that look. And now it's like, oh, let me just shoot log on my phone. Like,
It's crazy. I mean, like,
easy.
dude, like my iPhone can shoot 4K.
Yeah.
It's just like it's nuts. It's like what?
What? Yeah, you're telling me that same thing. And I have to like buy these super expensive cameras to shoot 4K, but it's like, oh yeah, it's in my 4K. It's on my phone.
And from an audio standpoint, the little tiny condenser microphone in these phones is not that bad, honestly.
I'm
It's
glad they're
really
messing you up too.
I mean, if you really take the time to nerd out on how it responds and stuff like that, and like place it the right distance, like kind of away or whatever you're trying to do, you can actually get something kind of decent if you know how to mix and stuff like that. But
So you-
that's it's kind of an interesting world that we're living in.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It definitely is. It's super crazy. It's unfortunate and fortunate, and I have to learn how to accept it and learn how to use it also.
That's the hardest part, dude. Like
Yeah.
that's the hardest part because man, whenever I first started my whole audio engineering journey, okay, so the very first band I was ever in, I was 14 years old. It was a thrash metal band called Necro Expo. Which is kind of funny because I just did the I did the Necro guys, yeah. But anyways, so this was like over 15 years ago, right? And because I'm 30, I turned 33 this year. Yeah, almost 20 years ago. But we're not gonna think about that. But anyways,
OGs in the
um,
game, yeah.
so we had a Tascam DP Studio 24 track recorder, and basically this they still make them today. Only they don't have a CD ejector in the front now. They just have a little
CD, what's that? I'm just
you know, and it was like this thing that had 16 individual channels. It had the XLR inputs on the back, and it had a few stereo sums on the going towards the end, and it was basically just an all-in-one portable studio. And I remember we got it into my garage, and we had three SM57s, which are very, they're the industry standard dynamic microphones. And we had a 58, and we were there, and we didn't know how to even turn it on or do things with it or do anything with it. And so we left your boy here. We had just gotten DSL internet. So
Oh, wow.
what's called I went and I found the manual for that particular console. Only we didn't have a printer, so I had to write the URL down. We went to the library and we printed out the manual because, like, you had to do those things back in the day,
Library.
20 years
Yeah.
ago. You had to go to the library, pull up what you wanted on their computer, and we printed out the manual and paid for it. I think like 10 cents a page or whatever. Yeah.
How many pages was it?
It wasn't that many.
Okay.
I think it was like 50 or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's not too bad. So it was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was like
I'm not
like
the
$5
medication.
or some shit like that. Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's okay because we're past the 27-minute mark. This will be the extra part, so it's okay.
Okay.
So as long as we don't cuss between 1 and 27.5 minutes, we're okay. This is the extra super juicy stuff, so we can
Cool.
fucking cuss.
Anyway, but no, that's kind of long story short, we got the manual. I got it there. I was reading up on it. That's kind of just how my audio engineering kind of thing started, because that's whenever I started learning how faders worked. That's how I learned the difference between output level and gain and input level, gain versus output, and it was crazy. Like that was 20 years ago now.
So it takes 20 years to get from not knowing to SugarHill.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, I tell them all the time, like, it took me shooting skate videos on a poopy Sanyo camera to here, and that was about 15 years. You know what I mean? And in another 5, I'll probably be able to be where I'm at, where I want to be. You know what I mean?
And that's one thing about the where we can share kind of like a common bond on that is that like I mean I'm still learning
Yeah,
stuff.
same.
And it's just an art like an art form like an artist is never done learning things, and the more that you know you have to acknowledge that, because I hear so many people so many budding audio engineers just like they want that first mix, you got your first paying client, you want it to be perfect, and then you spend so much time on it, and then you let it release, and it's just like this is still I can guarantee you, like, even, Picasso felt that every painting that he did was probably never finished, or that, there was things he could have done or they could have done that made it better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm definitely with that. Yeah. Like I try to never be completely satisfied, because I feel like the second I get comfortable, I'm not going to have motivation to do anything like, oh yeah, I can produce this and it's perfect every time. Like, no, 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 no. I'm still going to be like,
And that's what gives you that little learning edge. Like you're learning every single time you do a different project.
yeah.
So it's super cool, because it's like I'm gonna take the information that I don't like, that I could have done better here, and apply it to the next thing. Just get better and better and better and better
Yeah.
every
No,
time.
I that's what I love, because it's kind of like compound interest, or I don't even know if I even said that right, but it's like, okay, what I learned from the last one, I could add to the next one, and then I'm hoping, oh no, I will learn something new from that one, and then just keep getting better and better. I like to say I'm like aging like fine wine, not me, but my skills.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but dude, so we're coming to a close here. Do you have anything coming up, or where the viewers and the listeners of KPFT can find you, or
So you can basically, if anybody's interested in working with me, you can go to my Instagram. I actually have it's altered underscore entertainment 91. I have my phone number on there. I have my email address on there. Just shoot me a DM. I respond really, really well to all that stuff. I've worked with several different artists. Right now I'm working with Ganesha, who you know those guys.
they're great guys?
I'm still working with Necrogilistic Anomaly. They're about to put out an EP that we're hopefully going to finish up pretty soon. And I just released I'm fixing to release a single along with Stephen Finley.
Oh,
The other, the co-owner of SugarHill. We both worked with this band. Um, that sorry, their name's escaping me. Exitium. They're a local thrash metal band. They're about to drop a couple of singles before they go on tour. I did their live take of Black Magic Slayer's cover. It's a Slayer song.
sweet.
Yeah, and they're releasing their first single, "Live Free" with Steven. So both of us kind of work. Check me out. Follow me on Instagram if you want to work with me. I'm always down. Totally cool guy.
He's very cool. I mean, as you can see for the past 30 minutes or so, he's a very cool guy, and I love working with, or seeing you work actually. But yeah, well, that concludes the episode today, or I don't even know, is it radio episode? Whatever. Either way, thanks for joining us with Angel and myself on the Houston Collective on KPFT 90.1 FM. And I want to end this episode by saying, keep supporting local arts in this beautiful city, Houston.
Love you, H-Town.
Yeah, H-Town. Yeah, I'm not a local, but I feel like one, and people accept me as one. But yeah, I'm your host, Masaya, for the Houston Collective. Signing out. Goodbye and good day.